Recently, I was out shopping and I had the experience that literally everyone who's ever stepped foot inside of a Forever 21 has had, which is where you pick up like something that looks cute in the front and then you like turn it around and there's like some fuck ass slogan on the back. And the thing that made an annoying situation even worse was that the slogan phrase in question was "too pretty for a job." Now, this stuck with me a little bit, and not just because it ruined an otherwise cute piece of clothing. And my knee-jerk reaction was to judge, like my female counterparts that I might have seen wearing that, like people online preaching about being a stay-at-home mom or a trophy wife or a sugar baby or just earning money in another, like atypical career path. Despite considering myself a feminist, I always found myself harboring somewhat feelings of resentment towards these women because I know that their eagerness to fit into these traditional gender norms is going to make them a lot more appealing to the average man, unfortunately. I also resented them for pushing away a lifestyle that so many women before had fought to make accessible to them. But as the case usually is, it wasn't women who were pushing these ideals upon themselves, and it likely wasn't a woman that designed that shirt. As I continued my shopping spree that day, I saw a lot of different little quirky little slogans on these shirts, like a lot of stuff like girl math or just a girl, which are phrases that have never really sat right with me because it just feels like dodging accountability, just inherently demeaning and undercutting our womanhood to something frivolous and immature. But beyond just slogans on shirts, I've noticed an overall shift within the fashion world, and that is a shift back towards a lot more conservative trends. I feel like every time I open Instagram, I'm getting some sort of like tankini ad. Literally never bought a tankini in my life. I see a lot of stuff on my For You page about like princess nails and ballerina flats, and every time I go into a store, I see a bunch of like prairie dresses. We hear time and time again that culture swings like a pendulum. So if we look back 100 years to the 1920s, we see an era characterized by like the flapper, sparkly, more like boxy dresses. And then that's immediately followed by the more practical trends of the 1930s with like lower hemlines and stuff like that. Similarly, the iconic mini skirts of the 60s and 70s, like flower child era, are immediately replaced by the shoulder pads and the power suits of the 1980s, with women embracing more professionalism within everyday fashion. So after the iconic and somewhat infamous flamboyance of the 2020 quarantine style, followed by the bright colors of the Barbie summer, and then the cunty brat summer that we had inspired by a lot of queer fashion trends last summer, it would make sense that the next step within the fashion cycle would be back towards more conservative things with like the whole old money, quiet luxury things that embrace a lot more muted colors and goes back to these more modest outfits within women. But of course, this is a whole lot bigger than just wet bathing suits we're wearing this summer because, I mean, with all the liberal eras, with like the 1920s, we saw pushback against prohibition, and then like the 60s, 70s, we saw people protesting against the Vietnam War and expanding civil rights within our own borders. And just the same, the more practical trends of the 1930s went right alongside with the Great Depression, and the shoulder pads and power suits of the 1980s went along with Reaganomics. Weirdly enough, I feel like fast fashion stores are a really good indicator of what's going on with the current cultural zeitgeist, just because they're making the clothes so quickly and cheaply, and so it's interesting to look to the market and see what kind of clothes they're churning out to see like what's being reflected from the current culture. And trust me, it's literally no coincidence that this swing back towards conservative comes during a time of Trump's administration and when the House and the Senate are both dominated by a Republican majority. And honestly, the most concerning part is seeing how good men are at making it seem like this is all our idea. And not only that, but like a step for feminism. I recently just saw a video of a man on my Explore page that was like, women shouldn't have to work. They should be eating fruit in the sun. They're just such beautiful creatures. They shouldn't have to work. And it's like, at first I kind of took that as just like the next evolvement of the whole like 6'4" feminist male archetype. But upon further inspection, it's even more dangerous than that because just like the too pretty for a job shirt, it reinforces this idea that women shouldn't want to work. Now, trust, I love eating fruit in the sun just as much as the next person, and I'm not trying to make this a whole like, oh, girl boss, like women should be in the offices thing. Like no one should like long for labor. That's not what I'm saying, but it is important to analyze the reality of the system that we live under, and financial freedom is important for women. Being 100% fiscally reliant on a man is dangerous, and men controlling women's assets and finances gives them an inherent upper hand within the power dynamics of a romantic relationship. And it's not just the fashion industry either. Like I've been seeing a lot of content recently that really pushes to reinforce these gender roles. Like, I mean, obviously it became a joke, but last summer the whole like demure thing was shoved down our throats. I see content that's kind of marketed as like, oh, how to be a seductress, that's encouraging women to step into their divine feminine, which basically means just falling back into traditional gender norms in order to encourage their partners to step it up within a relationship and to care for them. I've also been seeing a lot of girlfriend brain, which if you haven't heard of it, just basically means like, oh, my like cognitive abilities dissipate around my boyfriend because he's just like that caring and that loving and like paternal. What I will say about all that is you do not need to diminish or infantilize yourself in any way to get a man to care about you. And if you do, maybe this isn't the real man that you're looking for. Men already systemically yield so much power over women as it is, so please don't diminish yourself in any way to make you seem like less of a threat to them. And also, other final notes, wear literally whatever you want, but make sure that you're wearing it for you